Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Thank you, God, for my family, friends, listeners, and this country. My country. The United States of America. May we all remember how blessed we are. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot the day before Thanksgiving with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. And a good morning to you. The day before Thanksgiving, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, sitting in my studio and speaking with you for the next 3 hours with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the very best in tires and service. Along with our friends at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have a real patriot with our pledge. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think you're going to be calling back in a few minutes, my dear friend. God bless you and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much. All righty. Hey, the weather forecast is next, and I cannot wait to hear about the weather. I talked to my son Jake at about 5:45 this morning, and he said he was getting hail. Hail! Oh, hail, the gang's all here. K&R Rental brings us the weather. Roger and the crew at 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn on the Burley-Paul Highway. Don't forget they've got the best of tools and equipment for you to finish any kind of a project. Absolutely. Not sure what you need? Well, just give them a call. They'll help you. 678-3122. On the Burley-Paul Highway, K&R Rental. Here's Gina.
Weather for this Thanksgiving Eve, it's not going to be too bad. A little bit breezy. We do have a very slight chance of snow showers, decreasing clouds throughout the day, expecting a high of 36. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 20. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, high of 37. Still going to be a little bit breezy out of the west. Mostly clear for tomorrow night, low of 18. Then for the weekend, sunny skies, highs are going to be in the upper 30s to low 40s and lows down in the mid-teens. That's what's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina, and brought to you by some folks that really have all the best of tools and equipment for your rent. And, of course, don't forget both long and short-term rental. All you got to do is just get a hold of Roger and the crew at K&R Rental. Where are they? 256 South, 600 west of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You can't miss them. Number to call, 678-3122. We'll start taking some calls this morning in just a moment, but I also want to acknowledge our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric. Good morning. They get there also at early in the morning, 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they're located at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Now, when I say they have all your heating, cooling, and electrical needs, it's true. When I say they have the top-notch, most experienced people to help you, it's true. So what are you waiting for? Stop in 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley or give them a call, 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Before we take our call, I also want to give a great big shout out to some people that I just really enjoy, and that's Thomas and Michelle and all the people over at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. And it goes without saying, I cannot wait to get things back in normalcy with the lunch bunch and everything else. Boy, I miss my friends. Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Of course, breakfast, lunch, and dinner anytime, all the time. You stop in, menu choices that you knock your socks off. Delicious, let me tell you. Stop in. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like I said, desserts, all of it. Turkey dinners, delicious pies. Oh, my. Denny's Restaurant, America's Diner at 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Yeah, better get that turkey in the oven.
Well, we're not doing any cooking this year. We're headed up to my daughter's tomorrow morning, and needless to say that the apple did not fall far from the tree. Toby is outstanding like her mother in baking and cooking.
Well, what time do you want us to be there?
Your invitation's in the mail.
Yesterday I had an early morning appointment, a doctor's appointment in Twin Falls. And after the appointment, I went down and filled my car full of gas at $2.03 per gallon.
Yep.
Now, what are we supposed to do in Burley? Just quit whining and get used to it? Or what are we going to do?
Well, wait a minute. You said $2.03 a gallon. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, you'd better get down on your knees, and you better look and pray to the good Lord above that you paid $2.03. I don't care if you paid $2.20. I don't care if you paid $2.30. I don't care if you paid diesel price, because these prices are going to change, and the only change is going to be up, 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 with the lunatic John Kerry taking over as energy czar to further and promote the new Green Deal. Keith, hang on to your billfold.
Well, here's what my take is on it. They're selling less gas, and so they're just going to have to charge more so that they can stay in business.
Yeah. There's a couple...
Their excuse is... But one other note, in Twin Falls, you can't buy toilet paper because there isn't any.
Well, I don't remember the last time Deanne went to the store, but I will certainly check that out, because this weekend we will have to take the wagon and the horses in to buy supplies at the general store, and we'll check it out. And if I find some extra, I'll send it over to you. I'll gift wrap it.
No, don't just send me roll. Send me a truckload.
Okay. Oh, my.
Hoard like some of these other things.
Oh, don't get me started. Don't get me started. Keith, it's always good to hear from you. And by the way, to you and your lovely wife, please have a very blessed Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and you do the same.
I will. Thank you. Caller, I'll be right there. Stand by. I want to remind everybody about Dino Septic Service, and they wish you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving. Yes, these folks really community and family oriented, and I'll tell you what, they take care of all the septic tank pumping and the liquid waste removal and the sewer and sink drain line cleaning, and I'm telling you, you got a problem, they've got the answers. They've got all the latest of equipment, and they serve almost all of southern Idaho. They are good. Dino Septic Service, 436-6526. Burley, 678-1638. Twin Falls, good morning, 735-8281. With the big truck that says, smells cargo on the way. Dino's Septic Service. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, my friend.
I'd just like to thank all these people that voted for Joe Biden. He is trying to undo everything Donald Trump did over the years, and that includes the economy. And all you people that voted for Joe Biden, Wait till it comes time for you to pay your taxes and find out that the economy has been broken, and you people are going to have your taxes paid along with us, going to have increase in taxes to try to undo the damage that the Democratic Party is doing.
Tony, I am going to make a prediction, and I don't care if anybody agrees with me or not. It's my opinionated prediction that by the end of March, and I mean that, very few short months from now, March of 2021, there will be a clamoring, there will be a begging, there will be a multitude of people begging and saying, please come back, Donald Trump, because I think a lot of people are going to realize the good that he has done for our country and the economy that is now going to be thrown down the drain.
Well, all these people that had jobs come to them because of Donald Trump are going to find themselves, they're not going to be able to make their car payments. It's going to be a struggle to make their house payments. And, boy, they got a surprise from me. But 4 years of this guy will totally destroy this country.
Well, I will say this, and I mean this, that when Trump was elected, he came into office promising to drain the swamp. Now Biden is going to refill the swamp. And with the pics that I saw yesterday for his cabinet, look out. There's a bunch of wild alligators running back in Washington, D.C.
Well, Biden is just another gangster that's been covered up by his fellow politicians for many years. And he's surrounded himself with a bunch of Marxists and absolutely ignorant people.
I could not agree more. I am very worried about his picks, especially John Kerry. I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Tony, you and Mary, God's blessings to you. Happy Thanksgiving, and stay just the old Tony that you are. We love you, man. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Zeb.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I'd like to wish you and Tony and all of your audience a happy Thanksgiving before I start. My next part isn't so nice. I think it's terrible that Biden got elected. I don't believe he won it in any way. I don't think he could have got 100,000 legal votes in the whole country, let alone several million they claim. I think he's going to be like the worst world leader that ever lived on the face of this earth, bar nobody, Obama. He's going to follow in his footsteps, have the same cabinet, every one of them rotten, worthless, horrible people. I think we're going to miss Donald Trump greatly.
Absolutely.
I know I will. I think he was probably the best president this country has ever had. I don't know of another one that has accomplished so much in so short a time with as much opposition as he's had.
Very well stated.
It's just been wonderful.
Very well stated. Jerry, I do appreciate your remarks, and I thank you for your well wishes. I'm going to be talking more about that in just a moment. To you and your family, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
And happy Thanksgiving to all, and may the Lord bless your whole audience.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And our country, too.
Absolutely. I will say this, and I totally agree with Jerry's very well said statements. Biden is not going to do anything that's going to be better for you and us. No. Biden is, in my opinion, a senile, old, despicable despot that should never have been appointed president. Now, when I use the word appointed, I absolutely mean appointed. I think he was appointed by the media. I think that it was not a vote in. I said appointed. I absolutely think the election was dishonest and absolutely swayed by the media and others and high-tech, big-tech companies. Nobody's going to change my mind. I'm not going to change my opinion. I'm sure that some of the local yokels that write op-ed pieces will probably condemn me. So be it. This was as phony an election as ever has happened anywhere in the world. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. I'm old enough to remember that Al Gore was the projected president for 32 days, 37 days?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, these people are in such a hurry. And in 2016, Pennsylvania did not certify their election until December 3rd, if I remember correctly.
I think it was right at December 3rd or December 5th. And, Sean, we've got a little feedback here if you could help me out. And I agree with you, Doug, and I'm so glad you brought this up. I don't understand what the big rush to absolutely put the crown on Biden's head until all the states are certified and everything is supposedly in a legal channel. I don't think this election was legal. I don't care. I've talked to a lot of powers that be across the United States, especially in Washington, D.C., and most of the powers that be that I've talked to, Doug, they raise their eyebrows and they say, no.
No. You know, I mean, he didn't even go out and campaign. And when he did do a rally, the maximum I ever seen at his rally was 40 people there, and 20 of them were reporters.
I'm laughing because it's true. I'm not laughing at you. Yeah.
It is true. And he had circles. They couldn't get out of the circles. And one of them I seen, there was only 6 circles filled up and 10 of them were empty.
Let me just throw this at you and think about this. Yesterday, Biden came out with a statement that chilled me, and I cannot wait for, and again, Sean, there's a little feedback, please. It chilled me, and I can't wait for Frosty to get on the air next Monday. Biden said that he, in the first 100 hours or days, is going to make sure that over 20 million illegals are awarded citizenship. What did you think about that remark?
I think that is the most un-American remark. Every immigrant that has waited in line and done their due diligence to come over to the U.S. and become a citizen should grab pitchforks and head back there and put Biden in his place.
Well, what does it tell you? And honestly, if you think I'm wrong on this statement, I want you to chime in. But for the last year or more, have you heard a lot about Nicaragua, Costa Rica, all of these countries that were trying to come en masse into our country and just invade our southern borders and say, if you don't like it, America, that's tough, we're coming in. All of that was stopped. And who was the president when all this was stopped?
It was President Trump.
All right. Now we've got a guy that says, well, I'm just going to go ahead and give citizenship to about 20 million illegal aliens. What do you think is going to happen to our border system if there's going to be anyone left?
Well, good thing we have a wall, but if Biden has his way, he's going to send guys down there with blowtorches and just cut big holes in it and leave it like it is. He wants open borders.
Yeah.
If you do not have a border, you do not have a country. And if you lock your doors at night, you believe in walls that they work.
I am so afraid, and I'm not trying to be theatrical, I am so afraid over some of the appointments that I know about on this new cabinet. The one that I fear the most, the New York Post newspaper came right out yesterday and said that he is a lifelong joke and a gas bag, and they were talking about an op-ed about John Kerry.
Exactly. If anybody can remember back to Vietnam, and when he come back from Vietnam, what
yes.
was done in front of the Senate was disgraceful. He was a traitor then. He is a traitor now. And if he's going to be the czar for the Green New Deal and climate change, then I recommend he get rid of all of his houses except one, get rid of all of his yachts except one, and his private jet.
I honestly, energy is the main problem, and I say that because you can't get to your office to do work without energy. The transportation network across our country can't deliver the goods and services and the food without reliable energy that is halfway cost efficient. We can't grow our crops, harvest our crops without energy. We can't do anything, turn on the microphone at this radio station without energy. And when you have a so-called energy czar that is going to turn everything upside down with a Green New Deal and basically dispose of a very efficient energy system where we are now absolutely not reliant upon anyone. Listen, Katie, bar the door.
Exactly. And if they're going to get rid of oil, then all of these people with their iPads, throw them away because they can't be made without oil. And your kayaks, and your new cars, and your bottled water, all the bottles that hold your water. We can't have them anymore because they're made out of oil.
I honestly do not think, Doug, and to all the audience, that these people that have been so concentrated within closed confines of Washington, D.C., in office buildings and in the swamp in Washington, they've never been out into the hinterland. They've never been to a Virginia coal mine. They've never been to a forest up in Minnesota. They've never been anywhere across the country where farmers have to irrigate and rely on water to grow the crops. They've never been anywhere to really understand the energy that's necessary and needed. And these idiots, and that's what they are, I will not back up, that are looking at green energy with the wind turbines and solar are going to put us as a third world country.
That's exactly what they want. It's exactly what they want. And they've seen Al Gore get filthy rich off of his climate change, and they're jealous. They want a piece of the action.
Absolutely. Doug, I appreciate your call. I got to run and get a spot in here, but I also want you to wish the seniors a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes, and one more thing. I got a quote after that. The senior centers, everybody, they need our help. Do what you can to help them. Donate to them. Buy a turkey and give to them. They can use it not only for Thanksgiving, but for other meals. And my quote of the day is, I am. Two of the most powerful words, for what you put after them shapes your reality.
Wow. There you go. Boy, you're getting heavy on us this morning, I'll tell you.
Hey, God bless.
Thanks, Doug. Appreciate you. Hey, your home is the one place where everything should be perfect, including your air. Ramsey Heating and Electric helps you achieve the perfect air you deserve with reliable, groundbreaking, award-winning Lennox products. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today. Check on a Lennox home comfort system that will help improve your health. Call them at 678-0459 or visit Ramsey'sOnline.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. I really would like to take a little survey. Honestly, call me and let me know, do you really think that this election was honest and upright, forthright, or do you think it was a sham? I am not going to change my opinion. I think it is a sham, was a sham, and continues to be a sham that high tech bought and paid for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I think it was absolutely a ruse. I think it was like the little game with the shell game with the pea underneath one of the shells. Well, somebody stole the shell. I don't agree with this election at all. And when I look at these cabinet appointees, all you are seeing is a elongation, if you will, of the Obama third term of running this country. That's how I look at this. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. And they decided to hang up. Another one call in. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I'm back. Completely dishonest. without a doubt, in my mind at all.
Well, Jerry, you've been a veteran. You've been a great citizen of this country. You do so much for the community and everything. And I beg to ask you this. I mean, when you see a candidate flying all over the country and getting thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people at rallies and everything, and then conversely, on the other side of the coin, you see a senile, old, despicable man that absolutely doesn't leave his basement. He stays there and walks outside to water his flowers and then goes back in, and he wins the election. Come on.
Well, he's following in the steps of the worst world leader that ever lived on the face of this earth. That guy was totally dishonest, totally corrupt, totally a liar. I don't think he ever told the truth once in his life.
Well, I agree with you that I absolutely despised Barack Obama, and that got me in trouble with the so-called Democrat leadership here in the state of Idaho that wanted to call me a racist, and they're a bunch of clowns anyway, so I shouldn't have given them any credence. But I agree with you, Jerry, and I thank you for calling back. Thank you again. I've got your vote down that the election was a sham. Thank you very much.
I will add one thing to what I said. Obama was the most racist, horrible president we ever had.
I can't argue that. Thank you. Appreciate it. Calls are welcome. I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Do you think it was an honest election, or do you think it was absolutely manipulated and illegal? I'm just absolutely for all the people I've talked to, and they are numerous all across this country that really know politics. I'm talking people that work for major networks. I'm talking newspaper people. I'm talking those that really want to give their opinion. And I haven't yet found anyone that has really said they thought it was absolutely on the up and up. What are your thoughts? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. One other major problem that's going to either help us or it's going to bury us is the Senate runoff in Georgia. This is so important that if the Democrats win those 2 Senate seats, I hope you've got friends, neighbors, and relatives in other countries, because you might want to call them and see what property is. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. It's for me, it's an HE double toothpick. No, it was not honest, and it wasn't fair, and it's still not honest.
Why do you feel that way?
Well, for one, they kept saying that Florida was had done the mail-in votes for a long time, and they had got it figured out. Well, maybe that's true, but I have a family member who lives down there who received 9 ballots to their address.
Oh, my.
Addressed to them, and they have a child that just turned 18, and that child got 4 ballots addressed to them. 13 ballots altogether. Only one of them would have been legitimate.
The mail-in balloting, don't even get me started on that right now, because my animosity and my hatred towards mail-in ballots and the absolute illegality that surrounds that type of voting, I will never advocate for that again. I did in the Idaho primary. I won't ever do it again. You can bet on it.
Yeah, absentee's one thing, because I used to run over the road, and so I would have to go get my absentee ballot because I didn't know if I was going to be in town the day of the vote. That's legit, but I had to go to the courthouse. I had to show them my ID. I had to get, my ballot so that I could mail it back in. That one I believe in, but you might as well. Casey Jones, the local engineer, sends them out to every occupant of a home. That's what they might as well put on them.
I agree.
Occupant as opposed to an address or a person, because that's basically what they are.
I agree with you totally, and this election is going to haunt the United States for a long time in the future.
Exactly. Well, and I understand that back when Obama was running against I think it was Mitt Romney, but irrelevant who he was running against, people would push Republican, and it'd flip over to Obama. Republican, no, you're going to vote Obama, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And that was clear back then.
So many discrepancies, and we can thank high tech for what we have today. Thank you, and to you, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Caller number 2, you're on the air. Go ahead, please. Was the election honest and forthright, or was it a sham?
I think it was the biggest illegal sham in the whole wide world that has ever happened in my 80 years. It was so false. I think people would have become more familiar with the book of Revelations because we're in the end times.
You know, it's so interesting what you just said, my dear lady, because in my Bible study, that's exactly what we restarted again. I mean, I've read it like 30 times, but in my Bible study, we just started going over Revelations one more time, and you are one smart lady. I agree with you 1,000%.
Well, I appreciate that. It's good to know I'm not alone in my thoughts.
No, you are not. God bless you, and happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
All right, thank you. There was a gentleman by the name of Bob Barr, and represented Georgia's 7th District in the U.S. House of Representatives from, let's see, what was it, the mid-'90s until about 2003. And he was also a United States attorney. And he wrote a piece about this election, and he said, get ready for a transition to regulatory hell with Joe Biden and his staff. And, you know, he goes through everything about what this president probably will do or not do, and all the things that we're going to have to really watch out for, whether it's immigration and the giving of benefits to 20 million new citizens that are going to hurt not only Social Security, Medicare, etc., but the whole system. I mean, we've got some problems. And then we have John Kerry taking over as energy czar. And you know how committed John Kerry is to the green energy of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others. And so many more changes. They're going to flip-flop and throw away all the good that has been done for this country in the last 4 years with Donald Trump. And at the end of his story said, America will truly be a regulatory hell. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Once again, do you feel the election was completely honest, above board, all things were sunshine and rainbows, or do you think it was a sham? So far, everybody that's called in says it is a sham. Give me your call, and I'd like to hear from you. While I'm waiting for it, Barry Equipment and Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin, and the Nampa location, and they have all the equipment to finish the jobs of lifting and digging and pushing and carrying and grading, leveling, all of this and more. They've got all the Bobcats, all the shapes and sizes. They've got all the trenchers, all the scissor lifts, and all the Doosan wheel loaders and excavators, and super great lease programs and great financing programs to buy. You better give them a call. Barry Equipment and Rental in Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Caller, good morning. Appreciate your call. Go ahead.
You bet. Like in the movie The Shining, I'm back.
Okay.
I think it was a sham. But in 2016, they screamed and hollered that Russia interfered. And in 4 years now, they say it's the fairest election, there's no interference, and who was president to fix that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm noticing a bunch of fuzz on the line, and I'm going to ask Sean to intercede here and tell us, is it really noticeable, and do we need to change lines at the break?
I'm not hearing it.
I'm hearing a whole bunch coming down the line to me. Anyway, Doug, I agree with you. And 4 years ago, the Democrats were yelling and screaming, and Hillary Clinton was on television saying that everything about the election was illegal, and he's not a legitimate president. I mean, I've seen all the clips. So have you. And now it's a completely different dance, and the music has changed slightly, but the Democrats are sitting there so smug after they know that high-tech bought this election for Mr. Biden.
Exactly. I think we need to go back to the good old-fashioned days. Everybody fill out a paper ballot, and if they're going to run it through machines, they also hand count it.
You know what? You just took the words right out of my mouth. I don't care how much work they say it will be. One person, one ballot, marked at the polling station, and the heck with high tech having all the capability of taking and changing votes electronically, and we saw that happen.
Exactly. And if they say, well, we don't have, there's too long lines of polling places, well, open up some more polling places. I mean, a rocket scientist, it don't take a rocket scientist to figure that one out.
We've turned into, in my opinion, tell me if you don't agree, we've turned into a society where it's all got to be so easy. It's all got to be so absolutely simplified. And, we can't be bothered with standing in line. We can't be bothered with waiting a few minutes. We can't be bothered to go vote because Thursday or Tuesday is going to be the day I clean out my sock drawer. Everything has to be handed to the American people instead of really standing up, looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, I am so blessed to live in this United States of America, I can give up some time to stand in line and go vote.
Exactly, and I've said this for years. We've turned into a fast food society.
Amen.
I mean, the youth, they feel they should have these big homes like their parents finally wound up with after 40 years of marriage and struggling and working hard and saving, and they feel they should, 20 years old, 25 years old, have these big fancy homes.
Yeah, they got the attitude, I want it, and I want it now, and I'm not going to wait, and if I don't get enough money to pay for it, somebody can have it, I'll let them take it back.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree with you.
God bless you. Got another caller.
Thanks, Doug. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zab. There's another thing that I'm concerned about. All this farmland that's being used up, I'm going to make a prediction that a lot of it's going to end up as solar panel fields under this new administration.
I am not going to argue that point. I am so worried about massive land takeover for solar panels and wind turbines. I am so afraid of that garbage, and that's what it is. It's nothing more than just putting money in Chinese pockets, because most all of it is processed, manufactured, and sent here from China to the United States. I totally agree with you.
And we will be held hostage by foreign countries for our food. And this is another thing that I'm really concerned about.
Well, if we lose the ability for our farmers and ranchers to stay in business and to process and produce all the food for the American public and the world, we will turn into a subservient country where we'd better be standing on the docks waiting for the boxes to unload, or we're going to starve to death. And any country that puts themselves in that position is a country that can be easily taken over by anybody.
Amen, brother.
Got you covered, Tony. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Jeff. Bye.
I tell you, I had it's been months ago, and I'm just going to say this up front. The guy that I had on the program that one day, it was a complete jerk. He was a jerk. I didn't know too much about this particular jerk before I had him on the air, and then he came out and blurted out, it wasn't part of the interview, but he blurted out that he was against American agriculture, and he wanted to see all of American agriculture stopped. And he wanted to see all of our food brought in from foreign countries. Some of you might remember that interview. And I put up with this jerk for a few minutes because he was absolutely an idiot in disguise of somebody that supposedly knew what they were talking about. And finally, I just curtailed the interview and said, don't ever come back. Don't ever expect to be invited to come back on this program, because I said your views are absolutely un-American and they're a waste of my time. Anybody that thinks that we can throw away our agricultural programs, whether it's farming, ranching, etc., and rely on foreign interests to feed us, and think that we're going to retain our position as a leader of the world, you're crazy. Weather forecast coming up next, and of course that's sponsored by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. And don't forget, they have all the latest technology and all the diagnostic testing and all the latest of information to help your hearing health. All you have to do is call and make an appointment at 312-0957. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, right behind the Minidoka County Hospital, across from the emergency room. You better give them a call today, 312-0957. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Weather for this Thanksgiving Eve, it's not going to be too bad. A little bit breezy. We do have a very slight chance of snow showers, decreasing clouds throughout the day, expecting a high of 36. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 20. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, high of 37. Still going to be a little bit breezy out of the west. Mostly clear for tomorrow night, low of 18. Then for the weekend, sunny skies, highs are going to be in the upper 30s to low 40s, and lows down in the mid-teens. That's what's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina. And the weather again brought to you by the wonderful, wonderful, smart people over at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Please do not put it off. If you've got a hearing problem, have it checked at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Make an appointment today. Call 312-0957. Do you think the election, and again, I know that there's going to be these twits that write op-eds are probably going to hammer me, but do you think the election was honest, or do you believe, like I do, it was a complete sham, a farce, a joke? You can add your own words in there. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. You don't want me to add my own words.
Oh, my goodness. Now that I know who this is, please, lady, do not.
Sean, have your finger on the button.
Yes.
Anybody with a half a brain cell realizes that this election was a total sham. They knew going in that there was going to be problems, and I don't understand, well, I do kind of, why they didn't take care of it beforehand.
Mm-hmm. You bring up an interesting point. A lot of people said that mail-in balloting, I remember Marco Rubio in Florida was throwing white flags up in the air and saying, please, 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 this isn't going to work. It's going to be a disaster. Well, it turned out to be that.
Yes, yes. And it continues to be a sham.
Yeah.
I mean, these people, I don't think most liberals realize what they're putting us back into. I'm worried. I mean, we're going to be taxed out of our homes. We're going to be taxed out of being able to go for a ride on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
Groceries are going to go sky high. You know, people on fixed incomes, how in the heck are they going to do medical supplies?
Yeah.
Are going to go through the roof. And I, for one, rely on medical supplies every single day.
Well, so does this household.
Yeah. So we need to be worried, and we need to get to the bottom of this, because anybody, like I said, with a half a brain cell knows that Biden should not be in office.
You want to hear something?
They're that long anyway. They're going to boot his hairy butt out of there. And guess who we're going to get for a president and a vice president?
Absolutely. Let me tell you something that this will shock you. This will absolutely shock you. That in a very recent poll that was put on by the Media Research Center, listen to this very carefully. The poll found that 82% of the voters that voted for Biden were unaware of the issues because Joe Biden was never asked. 82% have said if we'd have known his stand on various issues, we wouldn't have voted for him.
Oh, that's totally right. He was never asked any of the hard questions like they threw at Trump.
Yeah. And the final polling...
In the debates, Trump tried to bring those up, and they just shushed him. Of course he wasn't asked.
Can you imagine...
They threw in questions like, well, what did you have for dinner?
Yeah, what flavor of ice cream did you have, etc., yeah. But can you imagine...
Like Nancy Pelosi's, is that full of the high expensive? Well...
Right.
My opinion stands. It's a sham, and it's going to be a sham for the next 4 years.
Amen. You are so right. Can you imagine, though, real quick, Donna, I got another call waiting, that after they went through all the different categories that changed the voters' opinion after the election, they found out at the bottom of all the testing and the answering of the questions, 17% of Biden voters all across the board were saying that they wouldn't have voted for Joe Biden if the media would have asked the tough questions about various issues of Joe Biden. What does that tell you?
Well, it just tells me the news media is a bunch of fools.
You got it.
And arrogant narcissists, just like the liberals are.
Amen. I got to run and take another call. Thank you so much. God bless you. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
To you and your bride.
Thank you very much. Caller, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Go ahead, please.
Not a problem, sir. There's one thing that should happen if it does go to Biden. President Trump should declassify everything that happened in the 8 years of the Obama administration, like Fast and Furious, the Benghazi, the Hillary's scandal on her emails, the server, the whole 9 yards. Declassify everything.
I told you this yesterday, that I'm absolutely in favor of that. I hope he does it. I hope, honestly, the last day that he has anything to do with sitting in the Oval Office, he tells all of his aides to do what you just said and absolutely bare his chest, or in this case, bare the information to the American public so they can see and realize what a terrible mistake they made by putting in this despicable despot, Joe Biden, and even worse, the Wicked Witch of the West from California, Kamala Harris.
Yes, definitely. And when they get Biden out of there, he better do what he's going to do within the first 100 hours, because they're going to have him out of there at 101 hours.
I don't know. I am really scared as to what's going to happen, because there's little things that were said yesterday by Biden about arguing that America can't solve the world's problems alone, and so they're going to become a lesser, no more America's number one, no more of this attitude of help make America great again, or America's the greatest country in the world. I can promise you, Doug, my dear friend, that on this program, America is number one and always will be number one. And anybody that doesn't like that, if they've got power enough, they can pull the plug.
Well, exactly. And, you ride for the brand. I mean, we're Americans. Are we going to cheer and have China, for China to be better than us? No.
I could go on and on.
Doctors with this vaccine, the doctor he's putting in there, he's wanting to let the world have the vaccine before America gets it, and we're the ones that developed it.
Amen. Amen. I tell you what, I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep going at them tooth and claw, and I'm not going to give up. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate it.
One more quick thing. You heard about Hillary Clinton might be in the cabinet, too, huh?
Well, she deserves to be in the cabinet, all right, with a lock on it.
The wine cabinet?
Yeah, there you go. She's more comfortable there.
Yeah. No, but, yeah, he's thinking about bringing her in. I can't remember what post, but...
Well, call me off to the program. I'll give you some of the positions that she ought to try to fill. I'll tell you that. Thanks, Doug.
God bless. God.
All right. Hey, don't forget our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Be careful, Zeb. Be careful. All the best of tires, all sizes for all vehicles. And, of course, all the different tread designs to get you through all the mud, the yuck, the winter time, driving the snow, everything. They've got them all. And, of course, the best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts and batteries. And I urge you to stop in there before we do have an onslaught of a lot of bad weather, which you know it's coming. So be prepared. Stop in and see James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. None better. The best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. We're going to go to a break right now for about 7 minutes, and Sean, I am going to try to reestablish that line again. I'm getting a lot of it on my headsets, and so we'll call you back, but I want to urge everybody, stay tuned next hour for Dave Bigo. Going to be interesting. Talk to you in about 7. And away we go. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with the best in tires for your vehicles. And, of course, always the best in service. And don't forget, too, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're all at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
They are always at your disposal. Believe me, you just absolutely can get on the route service. They'll come by once a week, pick up your garbage. They've got all the dumpsters in various sizes. They can drop one off. You can fill it up. They'll come and get it. I mean, they are always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969, Western Waste Services. Want to also give a great big shout out to our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, along with Lennox Home Comfort Systems. And everything in your home should be perfect, including your air. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric and see how a Lennox Home Comfort System can improve your health. Don't forget, give them a call today at 678-0459 or visit ramseysonline.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. And also a great big thank you to our friends over in Rupert, and that's, of course, Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward, his family, and his staff, serving you and your family. Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to remember, 436-5636. Joel Heward, family and staff, always treating you and your family with the best possible support and comfort, and always upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please don't forget Hanson Mortuary, 436-5636. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. We're going to be going to the phone line here momentarily. I've just got to get one more good word in, and then we're going to have Dave Bigo on the program. I want to remind you about Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation and their sister company that's helping so much people to stay in shape, Elite Fitness at 1200 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Remember, at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, all the top-notch physical therapists that can help you with your aches and pains and recuperation from surgeries and accidents. Please, they are the best to help you get back to being you. Number to call, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Well, it is Wednesday and the day before Thanksgiving, and I am honored to have a dear friend on the program again from Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, Dave Bigo. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you doing?
Well, I'm good. I'm good physically, mentally. I think everything is still, the cogs are all meshing together. But I got to tell you something, and you can criticize me. Feel free to do so. I will not accept or have anything to do with this election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I think it's a sham. I think it's a farce. I think it was all put forth with high tech, big tech in our country, and instead of being voted in, I think he was appointed. That's my feeling.
I think you're right, and it wasn't just a high tech and big tech, Zeb. It was the unions, the biggest thing behind it. Because even the unions control the big tech and high tech. You know, a lot of these places, their employees are unionized, and the unions are forcing them to do this stuff. And I've said this many times. I think it's the unions, the SEIU, Soros, and them, all behind the scenes, you know, intimidating these big tech and other companies.
But what do? This is a problem that's not going to go away. And I'll throw this at you and see if you concur. That this election, I believe, is so warped, so illegal, and so shaped by wicked hands that I don't think, if it's not corrected, not found out, not exposed to the sunlight and the public, how are we ever going to have a real, honest election in the future?
Well, I think there's only two ways. One is that Trump continues to file suits and continues to go after them, even though he may not stay in the presidency, but he still goes after them and exposes it all finally and brings it down. And the other is the American people need to stand up and have a backbone and understand that the left, they're do as I say, not as I do, and you got to understand that and you know, watch what they do, and you don't want to be part of that, and you don't want them controlling this country and turning it into a communist socialist country without God.
Boy, thank you for adding that on, without God, because I see a big trend that's leaning that way. Let me ask you this. I think, honestly, Dave, that the American public is on January 21st, the day after the inauguration. January 21st, with strokes of a pen, and what Biden has said as far as opening the floodgates and automatically saying to 20 million illegal aliens, you are now citizens, opening the floodgates on the green energy with the Paris Climate Accord, etc., opening the floodgates on so many issues that they want to reverse that Donald Trump put forth, and they were working for us, the American public. I think that, I said this earlier in the first hour, that by the middle of March, people are going to be on their knees praying that Donald Trump could come back as president.
Oh, I agree with you, and I think people are going to wake up to the fact that, you know, and these are like the campaigns of the unions. They promise people they're going to get this and everything else, but at the end of the day, it's not. They don't get what the people don't get what they promise, and that's the same thing that's going to happen to the American people with this election.
I want to ask you about one person in particular. I have no good things to say about this man. I will never give him any credit because I think he's a traitor to his country, as when he served in Vietnam and put his fellow soldiers under the bus. I just find John Kerry to be one of the most despicable people in politics that this nation has ever had. Your thoughts?
Oh, he is, and, you know, John McCain was the same way, and, you know, we have it on both sides of the aisle, and what we really need, Zeb, and I have said this many, many times, and I push for it, and Trump was even going to start looking at it and do it, is putting in term limits, and that's what we need, because people don't need to get into government, spend their lives doing that, making all that money, and not doing the right things. They need to do a couple terms, and they need to get back into the free markets and get a job and go out and work hard and persevere and do the right things.
I will throw this at you, and you as a businessman and entrepreneur, and also very, very committed to the United States of America as being the number one country in the world, that this cabinet so-called cabinet. Actually, it's like a clown car that just got unloaded. This cabinet that Biden has picked is nothing more than a third-term Obama cabinet.
Well, that's right. Yeah, and that's the thing, and that's because we have people, and I even knew a Republican from Indiana. I won't tell you his name, but many years ago, I sat down and talked to him. He had read my second book and everything, and we actually had breakfast together, and we were sitting there talking, and I told him, I said, you've been in politics for a long time. We need term limits. He says, no, Dave, we can't have term limits. And this guy's a Republican, okay? I said, yes, we do. He says, Dave, I don't know what I do in the free market. I looked at him and said, you have a law degree. You can go out and become an attorney. And he just bowed his head. And this is the problem. These people, they don't have to work that hard when they're in government positions, and they can just do it and say whatever they want to say. And, what they need to do is, you're going to go into politics because you want to go do the right things for America. You only be there a couple terms, so you got to get in there and do the right things, then go back into the free market and work.
Do you mean to tell me, and I'm really shocked that he would say this to you, I mean that eating at the public trough like a pig and just taking everything the public has available for them, he's too lazy and too stupid to make it on his own and go back into the public as far as doing his own work by himself?
Well, that's the way you look at these things, Zeb, and it's sad. And, you look at Biden, he's really never worked in the private sector, and Bernie Sanders, I think he worked in the private sector for a year or two. And the same thing. It's because they can just sit around and do nothing and just think, oh, I want this and I want this, and I'm glad I'm getting paid all this, and, I'm going to appeal to the people to vote for me by telling them I'm going to give them everything. And that's not the way politics in this country should be.
One thing that has been brought up, and I heard Biden say it, and then I've heard Kerry say it, and I just absolutely, it just makes my skin crawl every time I hear this, is that they're condemning the America First attitude. They're condemning Make America Great Again. They're condemning and saying, well, we shouldn't be any better than anybody else, or we're just going to follow the herd. You know something, Dave? You wouldn't be the businessman you are if you were in any other country, I dare say. I wouldn't have what I have if it were any other country. I am damn proud of being a citizen in the United States of America, and it will always be number one with me.
I'm with you, Zeb. I agree with you. And, the way America was developed in that, that's what it made it so great, and that's why so many people want to come and live here. And, because it's a much better place than other places to live, except for the politics we have going on now. And we've got to get things back to normal.
I've got to ask you, and you have kind of a viewpoint from about 20,000 feet above because you've fought with these people, fought against these people, and you beat these people. These people I'm referring to are unions. What do you think, in your oversight of what might happen in the not-too-distant future, the unions are going to try to do?
Well, they're already talking about what Biden's going to do, and he's going to overturn a lot of the regulations that Trump had the NLRB put into place, and they're going to go after the PRO Act and put it into place, which allows unions to go back and do the Employee Free Choice Act and card check and all that, so they can force unionize people, and that's the scary thing that's coming on. American people need to wake up to, because at the end of the day, all that's going to do is make the unions more powerful and put them in power, and the people aren't going to get much out of it. But the unions are, because they're going to get a lot of union dues, and that's what they want.
Dave, when you look at this situation in Georgia, and I know you as a businessman, this has to be very, very concerning to you, that when you look at this runoff January 5th with the 2 senatorial seats that are up, I tell you what, I'm very worried. I'm very worried that if the Republicans lose the Senate, anything and everything can happen and will happen because there won't be any roadblocks. There won't be any speed bumps to stop them. They can go and bring in more countries as states. They can appoint anything and everything that they want done. They can go ahead and implement at trillions of dollars of cost the new Green Deal, Medicare for all. They can do anything they want with no stopgaps, and I am worried.
Well, I am too, and I think people out there need to wake up, and they need to stand behind those two senators in Georgia, and donate money to them, and talk to people about in Georgia about voting for them, and get them reelected.
I don't know if you saw this poll or not. It just came out by the Media Research Center, and it was about the people that voted for Joe Biden, and they were asked if they had been aware of the news stories that were suppressed about Joe Biden and his stand with China, his son Hunter, and everything else, and what he stood for. Really, he was never asked in the campaign. 17%. This is enormous. 17% of the Biden voters said that if they were aware through their news source about how bad Biden was, they wouldn't have voted for him. That would have changed the whole election.
Yeah, you're right. I saw the poll, and I agree with you. And we need, the media is controlled by the unions. I've told you this many times.
Absolutely.
It's just like my second book, The Devil at Our Doorstep. None of the major media outlets, CNN, MSNBC, even Fox won't talk about it because they saw me on talk about my first book years ago, and when my second book came out, I'm sure they called all these stations and said, don't ever have him on again, and because if you do, we're going to go after your advertisers, and you're going to lose money and be in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's how they do it.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question or a comment. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, across this nation, elected Republicans who have been riding the fence or who have been willfully against the president, including Kemp from Georgia, the Secretary of State from Georgia, the Attorney General. I'm telling you, you say to yourself, there's one person in the country that seemed to have cared more about the country than himself, and that was Trump. You got Sidney Powell, you would like to think, is a stand-up person, and these attorneys that are working for Trump. And then you got the 75 million people, and that's going to be where it lands pretty much, that voted for him, who feel raped and betrayed. And so the only thing we got left is somebody to lead us. And then even on our state, here we got Crapo, Rich, Simpson, and even Fulcher slipping. And they're gutless wonders. And they know they'll never have trouble getting reelected in Idaho. And so we've got a Republican Party that doesn't want to support what was the best thing that ever happened to them. I'm telling you, I'm fed up.
Caller, I appreciate your comments. Dave, respond to the caller, please.
Yeah, well, the reason that the people in Georgia and that are saying that they're not in favor of Trump and that now is because they're hoping to get Democratic votes in January. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and that's what happens to Republicans in other areas. And the Republicans, like I said, need to stand up and have a strong backbone and go out and tell the truth and do the right thing.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you this, Dave, and this is just two good old boys sitting on the porch at one of your golf courses, and we're sipping an adult beverage. How can you possibly unify this United States of America when you have almost 75 million people wanted to keep Donald Trump in the presidency, And he went out and he visited with the people. He had massive rallies, etc. And then you have a guy that steps out of the basement, waves his hand, and goes back to the basement like a groundhog. He wins the election, and now there's so many charges of it being illegal and managed and dismanaged by high tech. How can you ever develop unity in this United States again?
By exposing these people, and that's why I say Trump. I hope Trump keeps going after him, and he wins, and he exposes what's going on in this country. Because once that happens, it'll wake people up, and high tech and the rest of them will realize that they can't do that stuff because they're going to be exposed, and they'll lose money on that side, and instead of being controlled by the unions and losing on that side if they don't do what the unions want. So you have to stand up and expose what's going on, and that makes a difference.
And I'm going to tell you somebody else that needs to be really cleaned up, a group. And that's the media. I think you will concur that when you have very biased media, and for months and months and months and turning into years, back into 2015 when there was the inkling that Trump was going to run when he came down the escalator, the hatred, the diatribes, everything from CNN, Don Lemon, and all these other so-called smart people that haven't got the IQ of a hockey puck, the media has got to be cleaned up.
Yes, it does, and the media needs to wake up, and the American people, like I say, I know that they're controlled behind the scenes by the unions, and they've got to wake up and have a backbone and expose what's being done. And when you do those things, the unions will back down, and because they will start losing interest in membership and stuff like that. And Biden. One of the big things he's talking about is getting rid of right to work across the country. And that's because the unions want that gone so they can shoot these people across the country and control this country. And it's time the media wakes up and stands up.
Dave, if you were to look into a crystal ball, last thought here, and I'll let you go. Look into a crystal ball and break things down that you're worried about that are going to come to fruition maybe in the first quarter of this presidency. Let's go into March. What are your main concerns about a Biden-Harris administration?
Oh, well, like I just said, all the regulations that Trump put into place, they're going to get rid of, and the National Labor Relations Board is going to be transformed, and the unions are going to get things that they want and get rid of right to work and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's dangerous to this country.
Absolutely. May I extend to you and your wonderful family a very happy Thanksgiving, and I'll look forward to next week. You're a dear friend of this program, and we appreciate your insight. Thank you, Dave Bego.
Well, I thank you, and I also thank you for allowing the Colts to beat the Packers.
Bye, Dave.
I love the Packers, too.
Say, take care, my friend. Thank you. Good friend, Dave Bego, Indianapolis, Indiana. Very, very proud and pleased to have him on our program. By the way, it's hard for me to sit here and talk about great, great food and great eating and places to go when you add a bowl of cereal at 4 o'clock in the morning. I know a great place to go, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, anytime, all the time, the desserts, everything. Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland in Burley. Delicious food. The menu choices are amazing. You're going to love them, whether it's breakfast with the strawberry crepes or whether it's a sandwiches, salads, burgers, dinners, you name it, turkey dinners, pies. Oh, my goodness, it's all there at 611 North Overland in Burley. Denny's Restaurant. You stop in and see those good folks today. Want to remind you, too, that there's a business over at 270 Highway 24 in Rupert, between Rupert and the World, where they sell fun. That's right. Let's ride. They've got all the snowmobiles over there. You got to stop in and just take a little tour of their showroom floor. Holy, you're going to say, how'd they get this all in here? All the accessories, everything for you. Don't forget they're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 2. And again, I want to mention that if you already have a snow machine and it needs a little service work, boy, Tyson and the crew are really, really sharp out there in that service department. Give them a call, 436-4771. Don't forget, let's ride 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the entire world, where the fun is sold. Absolutely. While you're over in that area, too, I don't want you to forget our friends over at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Highway 24 in Rupert, right as you make the curve in Rupert. Don't forget they've got all the life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and more for you, your family, and your business. They are really dedicated and devoted to serving you. Give them a call, make an appointment, 436-4424. 436-4424, Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. One more word, and then I'm going to sit back and kind of inhale. Don't forget that your home is the one place where everything should be perfect, including your air. Ramsey Heating and Electric helps you achieve the perfect air you deserve with reliable, groundbreaking, award-winning Lennox products. Call Ramsey Heating and Electric today about a Lennox home comfort system in your home. Don't forget, call them at 678-0459 or visit RamseysOnline.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. Right now, we're going to go to the phone line, and we have with us the author of Bellwether Blues, a conservative awakening of the millennial soul. Here is Jonathan Jakubowski.
Hey, Zeb. How are you doing today? Good morning.
Well, first thing first, did I say your last name correctly?
Yeah, you nailed it, Zeb. I'm going to tell you, it's about 50-50 in terms of the interviews getting that right. You were absolutely on the right side of that. Thank you.
Well, I about wore off a can of deodorant worrying about that, so thank you very much. Appreciate that. Jonathan, let me ask you this. I see from the historical background that you have, you're a Christian, a husband, a father, author, business leader, millennial, played football at Bowling Green State University. What position?
Well, you wouldn't be able to tell it today. I think most people would think I'm a kicker. I've lost about 40 pounds. I was an outside linebacker.
Really? Okay, so one of the mean crew. I appreciate that. Let me ask you about the...
Well, you know what's crazy is I would go down on kickoff, and I would have songs like Amazing Grace running through my head while I go to knock somebody out. So I feel like there's a way to balance those things. Most people don't think that's possible. But, hey, between the whistles, it's fully legal to knock somebody in their teeth, and that's what I did.
You know, what's funny about what you just said is I had a friend of mine that years ago, he played for the Green Bay Packers, and he was a devout Christian, and he wanted to devise some kind of a technique in his helmet where he could listen to the hymns in his helmet while he was playing, whether it was Amazing Grace or whatever song. And he said you wouldn't believe some of the looks he had, not only from his teammates, but from the opposing team. They were scared to get near this guy.
Oh, absolutely. I can relate to him. I appreciate what he's talking about. That definitely was my story.
Let me ask you this, Jonathan. I'm going to just say this, and I want you to rebut me or agree with me. I am an old man. I'm 73 years old, and I have never worried more about the status and position and shape of our country than I am right now with the very, very possible taking over of Biden and Harris to lead our government. I'm scared. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you have a right to be concerned, Zeb. I share that concern with you. I was just talking today with a very close mentor who happens to be the owner of the business that I run, and he was talking about how he believes as a Christian he's basically failed. If he looks at the output from the church and the body of Christ, and in terms of the culture, it looks like he's lost. But he had an interesting comment that he followed up with, and that is that in spite of the fact that he may have failed, God still on the throne and can always do amazing things. And I talk about this in Bellwether Blues, but America is in dire need of another awakening. We need an awakening like we had with the First Great Awakening, which led to the Revolution, the Second Great Awakening, which led to the abolition of slavery and the Civil War. We need a Third Great Awakening in America because faith, family, and freedom are the three things that are core to the American experiment and to our success. And when those are at deficit levels, which they are right now and today, when they're at deficit levels, it's impossible to keep this constitutional republic alive. So we need to see those filled, and I'm praying and hoping for another great awakening to change that.
Okay, there's a yeah, but that I'm going to say. Yeah, but this country, and I'm going to be very emphatic, has turned its back on God and biblical principles, and quite frankly, we're getting, I think, what we deserve.
And I think that that holds true. I mean, the judgments of God are true and righteous altogether is what Scripture says. But it also says, if you remember the story of Abraham, when he went to save the city of Sodom, he said, God, if there are 5 righteous people in this city, will you not save it? And God said he would. And I believe that there are more than 5 righteous people in the United States of America. There are many people that are on their knees praying and fasting and seeking his face. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people who are called by my name shall humble themselves and fast and repent of their wicked ways and seek my face, then I will hear from heaven and will heal their land. That has been the rallying cry for hundreds of thousands and millions of believers across this nation, and it's my prayer today.
Absolutely. I want to go and kind of take apart the title of your book, Bellwether Blues, and then the subtitle, A Conservative Awakening of the Millennial Soul. Explain how you came up with that, and really what is the definition and meaning of it?
Well, in my family, I have some very close relatives who are Democrats, and one of them is a brother-in-law who I love dearly, and he actually helped me with the title. What I described to him as happening in America is you have a millennial generation, the largest generation in American history, aged between 24 and 39 years of age, that many believe is, pawns of the left, that we're all tearing statues down and we're all part of that major agenda. But what's actually happened through empirical evidence demonstrates this is many millennials are leaving the left because the left has left them. The left has gone so far left and center that millennials are leaving the left. But that doesn't mean that they're embracing conservative principles. It means they're in the middle. They're frustrated, skeptical, disillusioned. In other words, that they have caught the blues. That's where blues comes from. Now, bellwether is a term that we use every 4 years during presidential electoral cycles when we identify certain states, like the state of Ohio, that are bellwether states. And that term comes from a 16th century British Isles term that was used to the lead sheep of a domesticated flock. They would put a bell around that sheep's neck, and wherever that sheep would go, the rest of the flock would follow. So we use that in politics and in the electoral speak because we say as these states go, so will the rest of the nation follow. So put those two together, and that's how you get bellwether blues.
Let me talk to you a little bit about the second half, a conservative awakening of the millennial soul. You know, a lot of us, and I'm one of them, I'll say that, I have an animosity against the millennials in general, not all, but in general, as to how they've conducted themselves and what they've done to hurt our society over the last 8-10 months. Would you agree or disagree?
Well, I think that there's absolutely reasons to be angry. I think the animosity that you're talking about is something that I investigate and what can be done to awaken the millennial soul. And what I'll tell you, Zev, is that's the first thing that has to go. If we're going to see a change in the millennial soul, it has to be from people that care about them, that love them, that are willing to speak to them, step into their lives with authentic relationship, truth and grace. It doesn't mean we stop speaking truth. We always speak truth. We tell them what is true, and we hold on to truth. But the moment we lose hope in a generation is the moment we've lost that generation. The thing that needs to be restored is hope, because hope is a force multiplier. When we hope and believe that this generation can be changed, as I saw with stories in mainland America of millennials who went all the way from voting for Obama on the basis of personality, charisma, and leadership to voting for Donald Trump in 2016, that change happened because there were people that stepped into their lives who had a vision for their life and were willing to invest into them. And through that process, they were awakened to a different reality, recognizing that when you vote for somebody, it's not a Valentine. It's a chess piece. You're not voting for how they talk or how they speak or whatever, or how they tweet. You're voting for the way that they lead and the policies that they're going to stand for and believe in. So that's my encouragement to those Americans who have sacrificed greatly for our nation. This is another sacrifice that we're not going to have to make. It's hard to talk to somebody we disagree with, but we have to do it more now than ever.
Okay, and I don't mean to beat this horse to death, but I've got to ask this question. When you look at the television and you see millennials, what would you describe the age bracket of millennials? Would you say 18 to 30, 18 to 35? How do you break it down?
Yeah, so that's, I think, the biggest misconception is the age range of millennials. Most millennials are now off of college campuses because they're between 24 and 39 years of age. They're now growing families. They're working jobs, they're making paychecks, paying taxes, which has a natural evolutionary process of changing one's perspective. It's Generation Z that is primarily now on the college campuses.
But when you look at the situation of burning and tearing down fences and demanding and spitting on police and going into churches, and I'm not talking about just one location. I'm talking about Washington, D.C., New York, Chicago, Minneapolis, Los Angeles. It seems like it's a very widespread, well-orchestrated leading of the millennials in our society. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a battle for the millennial soul, to continue using that term, and there's a very stark contrast between the left and the objectives of the left, and then the principles that America was founded upon and that are part of the conservative movement. And that battle really reflects the French Revolution of 1789, which is the left's vision, the goal of utopia through man's might and virtue and power, and through the ability of government to be able to deliver these rights. First comes government, then comes rights, versus the ideals and principles of the American Revolution, which are founded upon timeless ideals, where first come rights from God and then comes government, faith, family, and freedom being part of that. The distinction between those two is critical. And as we communicate effectively what those principles are and how those principles of the 1776 revolution that led to the greatest nation on earth, as we communicate those effectively and how those policies impact millennials' lives, as I've seen here in Ohio and as we've seen across mainland America, many millennials are awakening to that message.
Let me ask you this, Jonathan. I'm a Christian and very proud of it. But we've seen a denigration of Christian faith. We've seen a slapping in the face, if you will, of the left basically trying to deny Christians their rights and trying to close churches down and trying to say that Christmas is no longer important and denigrating everything about the birth of Jesus. It goes on and on. I think the validity of Christians worrying about their future is really true. What are your thoughts?
Yes, one of the objects of leftism in accomplishing its utopian vision is to create uniformity of thought. So they want to eliminate diversity of thought, and the thing that stands in opposition to them, as it has for centuries. Remember the Catholic Church in Poland against the Soviet Union. The Church's truth. We make a very declaratory stance, a foundational stance that there is an absolute truth, and that absolute truth is given through Scripture. And when we make those stands and we stand upon principles, that is going to be at odds with the objectives and the vision of the left, which means the number one enemy of the left is not, the Republican Party. It's those people that carry beliefs and convictions that are eternal and true. So the number one enemy, and the one that they're going to attack more than anything else, is that foundational belief system. The left flourishes as faith drops, as faith reduces. So we must see a restoration, as I mentioned, an awakening and a recognition that the thing that Americans need more than anything else is faith in the eternal God who gives us these inalienable rights. And by the way, is that we're not talking about a nation that is going to be a church state. No, we're not talking about a nation that is covenanted with God, if you would, like former Israel or Iran. We're not talking. Neither are we talking about a nation that is without God, like North Korea or China or the Soviet Union. We are one nation under God. So even if an individual doesn't believe in the God who gives us these inalienable rights, even if they're an atheist, but they follow the natural law, the law that was given to us by God and really placed inside of our system of law with the Constitution, if they follow those laws, they're going to flourish. So as faith flourishes, so does the nation, and that's what we're seeking.
Let me ask you this, a thought of mine that I've always kind of honored and tried to live by is that I have been blessed. This day before Thanksgiving, I've said it many, many times. I have been blessed to live in this country, the United States of America. It has afforded me all the opportunities. If I work hard, studied hard, and really was diligent, I could attain and achieve anything I wanted. But there seems to be a major approach from the left that America isn't number one. And they denigrate people like me saying, well, you're just a white nationalist, and they make it out to be a bad thing. I'm proud of this country. I'm proud of my race. I'm proud of everything. What makes me so bad in their eyes?
Well, identify 6 things that have changed in the Democratic Party that led it to become so far radically left of center. The Democrats of even the 1980s are very different from the Democrats of today. And one of the things that has shifted is their perspective on America. In their eyes, America is an evil nation, not founded in 1776, but in 1619 when slaves were imported. And they've adopted this whole new curriculum and worldview that, to your point, using the word denigrate, they have adopted a worldview that denigrates anything that elevates the status of America. Now, here is the truth, and this is what you and I know, Zeb, and this is what happened to me. My millennial soul was awakened as I traveled the world. I went to places like East Africa and India and Southeast Asia and Central America for a social enterprise that I was working in. And what I saw in those places was corruption like you wouldn't believe it. What I saw in those places was government-sanctioned trafficking of young girls. It was astonishing to my sight to see things like trafficking of young girls. You see corruption at its highest levels and bribery and all sorts of schemes and poverty that was just mind-shaking. So as I traveled the world for those 5 years and saw those things, it made me appreciate all that much more what America is, what America has been, and what we pray it will continue to be.
Absolutely. Boy, I tell you what, Jonathan, you are a breath of fresh air. And this book, Bellwether Blues, A Conservative Awakening of the Millennial Soul, where can people find the book?
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on your show, Zeb. I appreciate it very much. The book can be found wherever books are sold. Amazon has Kindle as well as an Audible copy to listen to for those that want to listen rather than actually read it. They can listen to it. But also, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. On our website, bellweatherbluesbook.com, we have videos of the millennials that changed their stories, that changed their voting habits. So that's another place for people to check out the book.
Like I said, you're a breath of fresh air, and I certainly hope you'll consent to coming back on the program in the future. We've been talking to political analyst Jonathan Jakubowski, and I wish you the best and a very happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Thank you, Zeb. I'm honored and humbled by that invitation. Would love to join you again. I also wish you a happy Thanksgiving, all your listeners and their families. May God bless you today, and have a wonderful rest of the year.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. What a refreshing young man to have on the program, and I've got to check out that book, and it's called Bellwether Blues, A Conservative Awakening of the Millennial Soul. Caller, good morning. You're on the air quickly.
I was ripping some OSB on the table saw, and I wanted to talk to him. This is what I'd like to know. And I don't care who calls in and tells me, or you can tell me, or... The thing that frustrates me is I prayed for months that the good people of this country would show up, exercise their free will, their free agency, and to stop unrighteous dominion over them. And so 75 million people showed up, and I know there's more out there that would have voted for Trump had they, whatever the reasons. And maybe now they wish they had. But you say to yourself, okay, you pray to Heavenly Father and you say, well, where does free will end and divine intervention begin? And some people think this doesn't matter at all. To me, it's all that matters. I say to myself, well, Heavenly Father, now that we have done our part and we have reached out and worked hard and maybe 75 million people have realized they need to get back right in their lives, responsibility, maybe they've turned back to God. And you say, okay, we need a little divine intervention. We've talked about how Donald Trump was divinely, divine intervention is how Donald Trump became the president in 2016. And you say, well, right now we got evil destroying our country and raping the people. And you say, well, Heavenly Father, where can you help us out?
All right, Randy, I got to jump.
I'm trying to be disrespectful.
I got to jump in on you. I don't understand. I got to jump in on you because you can look at your watch. I haven't had the weather yet, but I'm going to say this. Remember one thing, and I think you will concur. All things are in God's time, not ours.
I know. don't want to, you know how there's 7 years of tribulation, and
Yep.
you don't know if we've been through it or we're going to go through it or we're in it. And I just, you know, I got grandchildren, children and grandchildren. I don't want them to go through that.
I don't either, and I've got the same circumstances you do. But, Randy, I appreciate your openness and frankness on these issues, and believe me, your call's appreciated. God bless you, man. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, buddy. Hey, the weather forecast, and I'm running late again. Weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, and they are the professionals providing accounting services to the Mini-Cash area, and they have been for well over 50 years. The best of tax return preparation, tax planning, business consulting, payroll services, retirement planning. You know, the list goes on and on. Really top-notch people. The professionals, Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. And right now, here's Gina.
Weather for this Thanksgiving Eve, it's not going to be too bad. A little bit breezy. We do have a very slight chance of snow showers, decreasing clouds throughout the day, expecting a high of 36. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 20. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, high of 37. Still going to be a little bit breezy out of the west. Mostly clear for tomorrow night, low of 18. Then for the weekend, sunny skies. Highs are going to be in the upper 30s to low 40s and lows down in the mid-teens. That's what's your weather for Zebedee.
I tell you what, she does a wonderful job telling us all about the weather, and that's Gina. Thank you very much. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company. As I said, they are the professionals. We've been working with them, and conversely, they've been working with us for quite a few years. They are good. Please get a hold of them today. 1710 Overland Avenue in Burley and 625th Street in Rupert. Phillips Oaks, Goodwin, Crane, and Company, extending to you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving. Thank you very much. Let me see. Oh, my goodness. I've got to change the schedule here a little bit today because we're not on the air tomorrow. I want to remind you, too, about everything electronic. Everything about electronics. And you've got questions. Oh, these people have the answers at Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley, Curtis and Lorena. I mean, they can give me all the copy in the world. And I can sit here and tell you about all the different gizmos and tools and everything else electronically. I can't explain it nearly as good as they can, so get a hold of them today. Call them or stop in at 421 East Main in Burley, and the number to call is 678-6997. They've got everything over there. I mean, they've got the home theater systems, video surveillance cameras, don't bite your lip, Zeb, car stereos and speakers, complete sound systems, TVs, it's all there. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. Stop in and see them today. Patterson's Electronics, 421 East Main in Burley. They're nice people, too. I mean, really, really nice people. Let's see. Now, we've had some changes for this morning. We're going to have our Starving to Death segment in just a little bit. But on behalf of Deanne and I, we certainly want to extend to you and your family the very happiest and safe Thanksgivings. I don't care if you've got 10 people. I don't care if you've got 20. I just hope and pray that all goes well for you, your family, you enjoy the day, but take a moment, please. Gather together, hold hands, bow your heads, and say thank you to the good Lord above for all of your blessings. I want to remind you that if you're, you know what's coming, if you're hungry and starving to death, I know some fantastic places to go. Let's start with the AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley. I start drooling every time I start this. They've got all the eggnog and the pumpkin shakes, and they've got all kinds of different kids' meals, and you know they got the Farmer Brown burgers. Oh, I mean, my grandsons love them. You're going to absolutely enjoy stopping into the AC Drive-In, 601 East Main in Burley. Let's move on over to Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland in Burley. You can tell how good they are because they've always got a line of cars. I'm telling you, they've got the pumpkin empanadas. Oh, so tasty. And don't forget, it's a great place to go in the morning for your coffee and a breakfast burrito. Scrambled eggs, bacon and sausage, cheese, onions, tomatoes, and sauce on a tortilla shell. Knock your Tony Llamas off delicious. Check out all the great menu items at Taco Bandito, 2301 Overland in Burley. And moving now to not one, but two locations of Burgers Etc. 124 South Oneida in Rupert and 700 Overland in Burley. They've got pumpkin shakes and they've got corn dogs and burritos for only $1.29. Hey, and nice people. My wife always comments about how nice those people are at Burgers Etc. Don't forget, stop in and treat yourself today to not one but two locations of Burgers Etc. in Rupert and Burley. Last but not least, let's head on over to Steve-O's. They're located at 290 South, 600 West of Heyburn, and they've got steaks. Oh, my, have they got steaks. The most tender of fillets, favorite ribeyes, tasty sirloins. Oh, it's good, 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 along with all the other menu choices. And, you know, it's a great place for supper when you don't want to cook. Really nice people, friendly servers, dedicated staff. They're open Monday to Saturday, 11 to 9. Don't forget Steve-O's. Food made the way you love it at 290 South, 600 West of Heyburn. And those are just a few great places to go when you are hungry and starving to death. I am. Let's see, what have we got coming up next hour? I think you're really going to like next hour because we've got a dear, dear friend coming on the program. I have the utmost respect for him. He's a former representative for the state of Idaho and knows everything about water and snowpack and everything else. And that's going to be former state representative Bert Stevenson. And then at 10:30 this morning, we're going to have Dan Perkins on the program. Dan lives in Florida. He's an outstanding author and writer. And he's got a new article called Joe Under Investigation. Impeach Joe Biden, Destruction of Democrats. Wait till you see what's coming. I'm anxious to talk to him about it. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studio for the news at the top of the hour. We'll be back at Zeb at the Ranch in just about 7 minutes. Oh, good morning, cloudy morning, and kind of looks like it might get a little gnarly. We'll wait and see. Good morning, Zev at the Ranch, and of course brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. They're waiting to serve you. All you got to do is drive in. We're the best of tires and the best of service, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. And of course, don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, I also want to remind you, as we've said many times, your home is the one place where everything should be perfect, including your air. Ramsey Heating and Electric helps you achieve the perfect air you deserve with reliable, groundbreaking, award-winning Lennox products. Ramsey Heating and Electric, you call them and see how you can get a Lennox home comfort system in your home. Absolutely call them at 678-0459 or visit RamseysOnline.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. There's a gentleman that is, I call, one of my very, very best friends, kind of a mentor. When I need to get information about politics or water or whatever, I always call him. He's a former state representative, and I hold him in the highest regard. Good morning, Mr. Bert Stevenson. How are you?
I'm doing very well, Zeb. How are you doing?
I'm just like I told you on the telephone. I'm like that little cat at the end of the rope. I'm hanging in and hanging on.
well, keep hanging on because it's a quite a long drop down, so just hang on.
Bert, we have not had a lot of rain and or a lot of snow. So where does that put us on the scale of things for having enough water for next year, 2021? Where are we at right now?
Zeb, this was probably one of the driest harvests we've had for several years. Almost an ideal harvest. But we're fortunate that we had carryover in our reservoir system, the Upper Snake. We've got about 54% of capacity in there now, and if we'll have a normal snowfall, it will fill pretty easily.
What do you call normal, Bert? I mean, how do you define the word normal?
Well, we've got to have some snow, and we don't normally get our snow until the end of December and January, and then some years it's been even into February before we get a lot of our snow. And so just because it's been dry, I personally, Zeb, have confidence that we'll fill and have a good water supply for next year. When
you go to these state water board meetings and everybody gets in the room and they start talking about this, how's things in your area, etc., what's the gist of those meetings? What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, Zeb, we just had our meeting. The Boise River Basin system is only 44% full. That's your Anderson Ranch Dam and Lucky Peak and up there. Payette is 57. Payette has had more storm than this fall than we've had here in the Magic Valley. But basically what we do in our board meeting is we try to determine, we always have fish issues that we have to work with to try and determine how we can preserve the fish, and one of the more serious ones is to see if we can preserve the dams and at least let our voice be heard as we want to save the dams, because one of the great fears we've always had, Zeb, is if they take out the four lower dams, they'll just move on up the river to take out the other dams.
Bert, that's a good topic, and I had written that word down on my cheat sheet to talk to you about dams. It seems like it goes in an ebb and flow, kind of a peak and valley type thing. Pretty soon we're going to be deluged with more people taking out the dams, and then it seems to subside or rescind for a while, and then all of a sudden they come back. What really is the status on the possibility of having those dams taken out?
Well, Zeb, it's just like everything else in politics. There's two sides to the issue. If you believe the one scientist, the world's going to collapse right around us, and the rivers are going to dry up, and there isn't going to be anything. There'll be no salmon. One of the things that I'm interested in, Zeb, and that I see a lot of it as I read the material and stuff, is that the ocean conditions probably have more effect, and then the orcas in the Columbia River, as far as taking those four lower dams out, it takes a bundle of salmon to feed a single orca, and they've all gained their endangered species status, and so you can't kill one of them. They are trying to trap them and move them farther out into the ocean, but when they're out there, they eat salmon. So
let me ask you this, Bert, and of course you know far more about this than I do, but right now, looking at a Biden administration, very unfortunately, I'm going to say that, and with the likes of John Kerry taking over as an energy czar, and he's one of these absolute green freaks as far as the solar and the wind power. Boy, taking out the dams at this stage of the game and eliminating that power source, to me, it would throw the entire Northwest into a complete turmoil. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't think you're wrong, Zeb. I think it'll be a disaster. if it wasn't for the natural gas power plants that Idaho Power has, there would be times that we'd be in the same position as California. But we're able to do that, and the amount of power that we produce from hydro.
Absolutely. What are looking back over your shoulder through all your years in politics and now still serving on the water board, how concerned are you that a lot of these issues are going to millennial thinking of, just tear it down, throw it away, and we'll just have a little wind turbine out in our backyard? How concerned are you?
Well, Zeb, I am concerned about that. One of the things that Trump, whether you liked him or whether you didn't, the one thing he did was eliminate a lot of these rules and regulations that stymied our growth and our being able to produce here in America, the United States. Now, if you don't like him, you ought to ask yourself, why don't I like him? It is probably because of the way he talked. It wasn't because of the policies and stuff that he had.
Absolutely.
Now, Biden will have you believe that we have to be cozy up to all the foreign nations. I can tell you that we need to be considerate of them, but I can tell you that we don't need to let them. We don't need to get in line behind them.
Well, that being said, and this goes right to the water issues and the power issues and everything else, it seems to me his approach, much the same as the Obama's 2 terms in office, is going to be that we're going to turn upside down everything that Trump had really garnered, and it was growing. We became energy efficient. We didn't have to kowtow to anybody. And why would anybody with any common sense want to throw away an energy efficient program and start over with a massive, not reliable green energy system?
Zeb, I can't tell you why people would want to do that, but because I'm not a mind reader of people's mind, but I can tell you how I feel about it.
Good, please.
And that is, and that's the thing that scares me as much as anything. If you've listened to the news the last day or two, and how these appointees that he's put on there, they want to go right back and eliminate everything that Trump did because they didn't like Trump. It isn't because the policies were bad. It was because they didn't like his tweets.
Absolutely. So in other words, the voting public, in your opinion, they were more concerned about style, really, instead of substance, and they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
Well, Zeb, I don't know that I'm going to blame the public for everything. I'm going to blame the news media, due respect to you and your profession. But the news media is very selective of what they let people know.
I agree.
I listened to a report yesterday that said that if 30% of the people had known about Biden's son, that they would have not voted for him.
Well, the news media, absolutely, I agree with you. They suppressed a lot of the stories, whether it was economic stories, whether it was ties to China, Hunter Biden, whatever. And I've got a sheet right here that says from the Media Research Center that over 17% of America in general, now that they know the stories and have heard about the stories since the election, they said they would never have voted for Joe Biden.
Well, and this, I think, or at least my take on the election was that it wasn't that people didn't like the policies of Trump. They hated Trump, and so they would vote for anybody but Trump.
Yeah.
And that's a sad way to vote on who's going to run this country by how you like them.
Absolutely. Bert, when you look at all the years that you served in politics and served our state of Idaho, I know from talking to you, sure, there were disagreements across the aisle, but it always seemed to work out and we could still shake hands and go on. Have you ever, in your life in politics, seen as much hatred and enmity between the two parties as there is right now?
Zeb, I never have. And I don't know how we correct this, because both sides are dug in so hard that it's going to be difficult to do it.
But what would you do? I mean,
it's going to take a time and change of leadership in it.
Okay, but what do you do, though, in a case like this, Bert, with your years of expertise, when you have one side absolutely for the last 4 to 5 years has denigrated the right, they've denigrated conservatives, they've denigrated Christians, they've denigrated anybody that owns a gun, they absolutely have tried to stop and stifle free speech, and now that they've taken over the administration in the White House, they say, oh, come on, forgive and forget, be a part of unity, join our umbrella. I can't do that.
Well, the problem is, Zeb, is that unity and we want to get along is we want to do it my way, because now we appear to have the power, and it's basically a power struggle, and that's where it's going to end until we see. It'll be a real disaster if we lose those 2 seats in Georgia.
Right. I want to go back a little bit, if I could, and talk again about water issues. Bert, we've talked about the dams, but there's other items that might take our water, and that's other great big metropolitan sources. What are the possibilities that we're going to see diversions going to more big cities like Las Vegas, etc.?
Zeb, I don't think that will happen. And I'm confident that it won't happen. And the reason is that the laws that we have in place now, before any water can go out of the state, be transferred out as the water rights being transferred. What they've done in California is bought the water rights off the farms and taken them to the cities. What they're trying to do in Las Vegas is the same thing. Take all the water from the north and dry up the land, and if you can dry up a desert, I don't know how, but in doing that, our laws are set before that water can be transferred out of the state of Idaho. It has to have legislative approval.
Bert, again, I'm going to go back to your many, many years of service to this great state of Idaho. It's been basically termed a rural and agricultural state, and we're seeing an influx of people coming in from all points of the compass, primarily the left coast of California, Oregon, and Washington. Oregon even wants to try to have a couple of their counties be merged into the state of Idaho because they don't like the politics on the left coast. What are your thoughts about all this?
I smile at that, Zeb, because I can appreciate why they'd rather be in Idaho than Oregon. By the same token, that's a pretty high hurdle to jump to get that, particularly where one of those counties that they want to bring in is in California. So that'll be a pretty tough deal to do. But I can appreciate why they want to that. And our cities are growing, and there will be a water shortage if we don't start managing our water. And we're one of the things that we're talking about on the water board right now is a raise of Anderson Ranch Dam. The environmentalists oppose that. The recreationalists that thinks it's going to take a couple of campsites, and those will be replaced, but they don't want to do that, and that's the only thing we're discussing right now as far as getting more water, other than the recharge that we're storing water in the aquifer here in the Eastern Snake Plain.
When you say managing water, I think for me and my audience, maybe you could explain that a little bit more. What do you do when you're seeing a mass exodus out of California and other states coming here to the state of Idaho? You know you're going to have more of a population boom and more need for water. So on the water board, what in the world do you guys do to plan for this?
Well, Zeb, what we do is try to increase the size of the Anderson Ranch Dam, and most of our reservoirs are at capacity, when I say capacity, that the drainage that feeds those reservoirs, we don't give it to have a lot of extra water. And so we do in the Anderson Ranch, we got a feasibility study that shows we can store more water there. There's most years.
Are your concerns...
When we manage water, Zeb, we just have to make sure that we don't let water go out of the state.
Right.
That can be used in the state of Idaho, and that's one of the things we struggle with.
Absolutely. You know, Idaho, and I kind of alluded to this a moment ago, and it's been known as a rural agricultural state. That's one of the things I've loved about living in this state for the last 50 years. Are you concerned, like I am, that the overall complexion of the state may change, even politically, in the future?
Oh, Zeb, I think it's. We see it happening. Within the next 2 years, they'll have to have the redistricting, and there's going to be fewer rural counties. In Ada County, and right now, we have about 4 or 5 legislative districts. Go right along with the Blaine County. And want everything green and everything everybody else to pay for it.
I see. Overall, being on the water board, etc., but I do detect a note of optimism for what we have currently going into this next year. Instead of a couple of years ago when I had you on the program, boy, things looked really, really bad and negative. So you are optimistic for this next season.
Zeb, I've decided to count my blessings instead of count my problems. I got enough of those problems that it would keep me busy for all day.
Amen. You know, I hope that you and your family have a wonderful Thanksgiving together, and please know that you are welcome here anytime on the radio. Any final thoughts that you want to put to the public this morning?
Well, Zeb, the same thought that you and I have talked other times. When it comes to this water issue, it's the good Lord that will fill our reservoirs, and we ought to be living the kind of lives that encourages Him that we're really worthy of that.
Amen.
And we have to. When I say we, I'm speaking of our whole society has to. Determine that it's not just me, but it's us, and be concerned about one another.
Well, I really appreciate your coming on the program, and please say hello to your lovely wife, Elaine, and the best of wishes to you and your family this Thanksgiving leading into Christmas season. God bless you, my dear friend, former Representative Bert Stevenson.
Zeb, I want all of you people to have a delightful Thanksgiving, and when we go to the end of Christmas, to have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir.
Same to you, Zeb.
God bless you, my dear friend. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, former state representative, and boy, was he ever a very important cog in the wheel. We miss him. Bert Stevenson, thank you very much. Let's take a look at the clock here. Well, we've got to get this in real quick, and we will tell you about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more. They've got a great big, I mean really big, pre-Black Friday sale going on. No money down, no interest, 48 months on approved credit. Woo! I mean, they've got everything on sale. The recliners at reduced prices, don't want to miss that. You got to get in and check them out. They've got a great, big, huge selection, along with all the sectionals and the sofas, and, of course, the dining room sets. Let's not forget they've got all the floor coverings, all the carpet, everything, and a staff that absolutely can help you with your home decor. They know they can help you. Jeff and the crew at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley for the big, big, big pre-Black Friday sale. You stop in and see them right now, okay? Let's see what else have I got cooking here. Next, now we're going to be gone tomorrow. And, of course, then we'll be gone for the rest of the weekend. And I want to remind you that next Monday, you'd be sure and want to tune in and catch Rick Manning and Frosty Woolridge, attorney James Herson, and others. Boy, we've got an action-packed show for this next Monday coming up, the last day of November. You don't want to miss that. By the by, as I have said, your home is the one place where everything should be perfect, including your air. Ramsey Heating and Electric helps you achieve the perfect air you deserve with reliable, groundbreaking, award-winning Lennox products. Don't forget, call Ramsey Heating and Electric at 678-0459 and see how you can get a Lennox home comfort system in your home. Or you can go to visit RamseyOnline.com. Conditions apply. See the dealer for details. Don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric. Wow. We're going to take a little break, and we're going to send this back over to our main studios, and then we're going to come back with one of my all-time favorite guests, Dan Perkins from Florida. Don't miss it. It's really going to be interesting. Sean, it's all yours.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
As I stated last half hour, I am so honored to have this man as a friend of this program. He's the author of 4 great novels and political analyst, and he lives in Florida, and I'm so glad to introduce again my friend Dan Perkins. Good morning, Dan. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm fine, and yourself?
I am great, and before everything gets rolling here, I want to extend to you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, and same to you, sir, and to your family.
I appreciate that.
Be safe.
Dan, I got to tell you, of all the writings that I've read that you have put out, this one really intrigued me. I highlighted it, I underlined it, and the title, I believe, is Joe Under Investigation. Impeach Joe Biden, Destruction of Democrats, Wait Till You See What's Coming. Boy, give us a synopsis of what you wrote.
Yep, that's true. I believe that you can create a legitimate scenario. The key for both sides in this idea is who gets control of the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
If the Democrats win both of the senatorial races in Georgia and ties, then effectively there are going to be joint chairmanships of the committees in the Senate, and the vice president, as his position of president pro tem, would break any ties, but it would put a lot of power in the hands of the Democrats. If, on the other hand, I think that they're going to get one of the two, that would give them 51, which would give them the majority in all the chairmanships. They will be the break. Now, they keep telling you that they want to have control of the Senate in order to advance their agenda. I think that's basically bullcrap. I think the real issue here is that if the Democrats do not get control of the Senate, then there's at least 2 Senate committees who will continue to investigate the pay-for-play of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. And that will continue, and it'll gain some momentum and some hearings. Mainstream media won't cover it, but the stuff will be there. That will begin to create a problem of credibility for Joe Biden. And as a result of the Senate being under the control of Republicans, the agenda of the Biden campaign, most of it will not be able to be enacted. For example, he wants to raise taxes $4.3 trillion. Taxes under the Constitution originated in the House Ways and Means Committee and then work their way to the Senate and go to the President to be signed. The Senate, if it has Republican control, is not going to be in favor of, one, an additional $4.3 trillion in taxes, and number 2, is not going to support the reduction and elimination of the Donald Trump tax program, which was passed by law. So those 2 issues are going to be off the table. Now, as a result, of what Trump has done, creating 300 federal judgeships in the time that he was president, the Republicans could, and I hope they will, use the Democratic playbook to fight executive orders by challenging them in the courts, as the Democrats did. But with 300 judges, it may be easier to find judges in favor of what the Democrats or against what the Democrats want to do and in favor of the Republicans. All this is going to lead up to 2022. Right now, Zeb, it looks like the Democrats have a majority of 4 votes in the House. 4. There is talk of one of the recently elected congressmen going to work at the Biden administration, so that means that seat is going to be up for grabs. So if they have a 4, it requires an enormous amount of willpower for the Democrats to try and control the agenda and to herd all of those Democratic cats into a common bond. I think you could create a scenario at 4 or less majority in the House. Nancy Pelosi may not be elected even by her own party as Speaker of the House. That's a possibility. But after 2022, you're going to see talk about corruption in the Biden administration, and you're going to see calls in the House because I believe the Republicans get control of the House in 2022, and they're going to start, as the Democrats did, talking about impeachment of Joe Biden for high crimes and misdemeanors. Biden will not want to go to a trial, so he will resign. Camilla will become the president. But I don't believe Camilla will be the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party in 2024. So I think we're already seeing the Democratic Party coming apart at the seams because the far left isn't satisfied that Biden has gone far enough to the left in his cabinet picks. So they're angry, and they're openly criticizing, for example, the Democratic congressman from Michigan leveled anti-Semitic remarks at the proposed Secretary of State, who happens to be a Jew. So the left is not happy, and they're letting it be known, and so they're further exacerbating the strife that will eventually cause a breaking of the Democratic Party. And I think by the time we get to the 2024 elections, the Democratic Party will be in shambles.
You know, Dan, 20 minutes is not enough time to visit with you about all the different key points that you've brought up. But I want to start back at the basics. I have taken, and Sean over at the station, I got just a little feedback here, please. I want to start back at the basics of the vote itself for president. I've taken surveys on my program. I'm sure you probably have too on your radio commentaries. Not one single listener has called in and said that this was a legal vote. They believe that this last election was a sham. Are you hearing the same things over on the East Coast?
Yeah, absolutely, and I addressed that in this piece by saying to my readers, and now to your listeners, and I've been saying this all over the country. I don't think there's anybody that really doubts there was some kind of fraud involved, but the problem is getting enough of it to be proven. So I have suggested, I've written to the president and some of his advisors, 2 things, 2 very simple things. The Constitution, Article 2, speaks specifically to who sets the rules for elections. The Constitution gives to the state legislative body the responsibility for setting up the terms and the conditions for election. They do not give it to the governor. They don't give it to the Secretary of State. They don't give it to the Election Commission. It only goes to the legislature. Now, Article 2 empowers the legislator to do that. So my contention is that we're missing a very simple point to impact this election. Any piece of modification to the election rules that was not approved by the state legislature before the election are invalid.
Mm-hmm.
All of those votes taken under those provisions must be thrown out. Seb, I would bet you that, and I'm not questioning the intelligence of your audience, I'm sure they've all heard about mail-in ballots.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my bet is that the vast majority of your audience doesn't understand that mail-in ballots do not come from the Board of Election. Mail-in ballots come from anybody who wants to print them up and give them to an individual to send in. So there is no Board of Election or election governing body that oversees the printing, production, or the distribution of mail-in ballots, which is different than absentee ballots, which have to become from the Election Commission.
Right.
So we have mail-in ballots. Why is that important? The California Supreme Court this past week ruled that Governor Gavin Newsom, who ordered the distribution of a million mail-in ballots in California, that it was against the law. He did not have the power to do that. So I think what you basically do is you go to a court and you say, look, Article 2 of the Constitution says that the state legislatures have the responsibility for defining the election rules. Any state that did that without getting the approval of the legislature throughout the vote, let them appeal it, take it to the Supreme Court. I don't believe that there's any constitutional lawyer who would look at Article 2 and disagree with what I'm saying. So I believe that they get it to the Supreme Court, which I think they are going to try and do if they follow my suggestion. They'll go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will have to rule 9-0 that Article 2 clearly stipulates that election rules are the purview of the state legislature, nobody else, and would order that to be thrown out. Number 2, the Dominion machines. Again, I've written to the administration with this situation. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So we go to a court. We ask the court to subpoena one Dominion voting machine, bring it into the courtroom, mark up 50 ballots for Donald Trump, running them through the machine, and then have an expert come in and show how easy it is to manipulate the tallying of the vote, and then run the ballot back through the same 50 and see how many they can come back by changing from Donald Trump to Joe Biden.
Absolutely. Dan,
when we create a reasonable doubt, Deb, then the court has no other choice than to say it's a voting apparatus that is in dispute, and there's no way to guarantee that the results are true and accurate. You got to throw out all those machines.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Those are the two ways that if I were working on the president's team, that's what I would be working on.
Well, let me throw a couple of other entities in the milk that are going to spoil the milk. That's being the media and also high tech. They literally had control over this election against the Trump administration. And with high tech, like you've alluded to already, there's an easy way to skew the numbers.
Yes, there is. And so the next step after the Democrats lose control of the House in 2022, and if the Republicans retain the control of the Senate in 2022, I would expect to see legislation for voter rules to be changed, requiring a photo ID or a state ID to register to vote. No more mail-in ballots.
Right. Dan, let me ask...
And so order the states to adjust the state legislatures to adjust their rules based on what the Federal Election Commission says needs to be done. That's how we stop the fraud.
I want to go back into what you said. And like I said, your article is so absolutely fantastic, and it opens up so many questions. Let's talk a little bit about the 25th Amendment and Pelosi kind of throwing this thing around before the election, about 3 months before the election, about using the 25th Amendment to get rid of Donald Trump. And I said on my program the next morning, I don't think it's so much to get rid of Trump, but if Biden gets elected, the Democrats, might want to use it to get rid of Biden.
I think that there is a great deal of merit to that. I have written about that very scenario. The pressure of being president of the United States, the psychological pressure and the physical pressure. I don't think that Joe Biden is physically capable of doing that. And so what we're going to see is a situation where the Democratic Party is going to have to acknowledge that they've got a problem. And that issue starts with the vice president. That starts with Kamala Harris. She will be the one who will be responsible for polling the cabinet officers to get a majority vote that the president should be relieved of his command, and then she notifies, operative word, Zeb, notifies the Speaker of the House that the change is going to take place. Mm-hmm. The House and the Senate has no vote in this issue. Now, I know that she's trying to create a new commission that would do that, but the Constitution, 25th Amendment, that power rests in the Vice President and the cabinet officers with notification to the Speaker.
I hope you don't mind if I kind of shotgun my approach, and I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to take this one call, and then I want to ask some other questions quickly. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Real fast. Go, please.
So, okay, is Sidney Powell still involved? I guess she's some sort of a military attorney, and so that has an effect. That's the difference than what we understand. The media has been painting her as being out. Can you clarify Sidney Powell? Do you have faith in Sidney Powell, Lynn Wood, and the rest of the president's legal team on what could happen? Is there a chance that this thing goes down the road that we can save our president? Because with Biden, we'll have structural destruction of our country. I'll hang up.
Respond to the caller, Dan, please.
Well, that's a lot to unpack. Sidney Powell is a very, and Lynn Wood are both very competent attorneys. I think part of what we're seeing, and what we're seeing going on here, Zeb, is we're seeing still the power and the influence of the deep state in the United States government and in the White House, in the administration. So they want this thing to be over. They want Trump to be gone. They've wanted him to be gone since before he was actually inaugurated. And so that Sidney is she's looking at the machine side, which we talked about earlier. Rudy and the rest of the team is looking on the constitutionality issues, which we spoke about earlier. So is she working on her own? One would depend on how you want to interpret what the news media is saying. Mm-hmm. I think that she has the credentials. She was the one who brought about a significant change in the general's lawsuit and conviction, and that insane judge. So I think that I believe if they, I'm not saying that I'm right, but if they were to follow one or both of the patterns that I've suggested, and clearly the administration is there, Sidney is expecting to supply a significant brief in Georgia either today or tomorrow. They're going in two different directions, which I think is the appropriate thing. So she's not a flake. She's a very competent and Linwood, very competent attorneys. They know what they're doing.
Okay, Dan, I've got to ask you a favor. I'm down to the last 2 minutes, and I want to ask these questions. There still are so many cogs in the wheel as to what could happen with this new administration. I know that she has been clamoring for a position in the cabinet. I'm talking about Elizabeth Warren. But if they give up that seat in the Senate, there again, that would sway heavily towards the Republicans retaining the Senate. Then Nancy Pelosi might not be Speaker of the House. They might railroad her out the back door. There's so many things I want to ask, and I'm almost out of time. Give me a real short synopsis on those two issues.
Elizabeth Warren was really lobbying for Secretary of the Treasury. She lost that to Janet Yellen, former chairman of the Federal Reserve. I don't know what her next role would be, if any, in the cabinet. And I agree with you. They're talking about Bernie Sanders possibly being Secretary of Labor. So at one point in time, there were 10 Democratic senators in place for various positions within the government. And you know, if they win 2 in Georgia for a tie, but if Elizabeth Warren gets a cabinet appointment, the governor of the state of Massachusetts, under Massachusetts law, replaces that person. And it so happens that the governor of the state of Massachusetts is a Republican, not a Democrat.
Right. All I can say is you really have opened up a can of worms to think about this morning, my dear friend, and I wish we had more time.
Is this my job, Deb?
Oh, I love it. I just absolutely love this piece, and I'm going to save it. I hope you'll consent to coming back after Thanksgiving. I'd love to talk to you more about this. God bless you, Dan Perkins, and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I'd be happy to come on again.
All right.
Have a good holiday for yourself.
Thank you, sir. There are so many more questions I'd like to ask him. He laid out a 3-page scenario as to what very possibly could and might happen with the Biden administration. I just wished I had more time. Oh, the clock. Anyway, I want to remind you about Edith's Cafe at 144 East Highway 81 in Burley, right across from the golf course. They're open Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to 8, Fridays and Saturdays, 11 to 9. What a great eating experience. I mean, the food is delicious. And call in. Call the number at 878-2248. They do call-ins, and I'll tell you what, they'll come right out and deliver your food to your car. There you go. And the catering, everything else at Edith's Cafe. Sandwiches to steaks, it's phenomenal. 144 East Highway 81 in Burley, Edith's Cafe. Right now, we're going to have our weather forecast. Caller, I am sorry. I am flat out of time, or I'd take your call. I apologize. Our weather forecast is brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Don't forget the telephone number, 324-7657. Or you can go to their website and look up all the delicious meats for you, whether it's, of course, the smoked turkeys and the prime ribs and all the gift boxes and the bacons. Oh, my goodness. Delicious. ScarrowsMeats.com. Don't forget, Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Weather for this Thanksgiving Eve, it's not going to be too bad. A little bit breezy. We do have a very slight chance of snow showers, decreasing clouds throughout the day, expecting a high of 36. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 20. Tomorrow, mostly sunny skies, high of 37. Still going to be a little bit breezy out of the west. Mostly clear for tomorrow night, low of 18. Then for the weekend, sunny skies, highs are going to be in the upper 30s to low 40s, and lows down in the mid-teens. That's what's your weather for Zeb at the Ranch.
Thank you, Gina. And again, we're talking about Don Scarrow and his excellent staff at Scarrow's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Like I said, time to get your turkeys lined up, smoked turkeys, and all the hams and the prime rib, and they've got gift boxes that are absolutely phenomenal for this gift-giving season at Scarrow's Meats. 331 North Road, Jerome, telephone number 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat one one delicious bite at a time. Holy moly! Want to also remind you about our major sponsor that we really appreciate. I'll tell you what, and that happens to be your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you with the best tires anywhere, anytime. All the tires, all the sizes for all vehicles. I urge you to stop in and see them today. Don't wait till that weather's all bad and the roads are all mucky and yuck. You stop in and see them today. Great folks. And 7 locations serving you, along with the tires, with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, and batteries. Yup, you got it. 7 locations, James and Buell, Dan on Pole Line in Twin Falls, Lane and Rupert, and of course Mike and Jerome, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, the Twist family in Paul, and my buddy Trent on Overland in Burley. You better believe it, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and they wish to you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving. I do too. On behalf of my lovely wife, Deanne, and I, we wish all of you a very safe, sane, happy Thanksgiving. And the Bible verse I'm going to choose for today to end my program, from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 20, always give thanks for everything to our God and Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. God bless all of you. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I'll be back on Monday at 8:06, where we always say the way things were, the way things ought to be, and the 4 words that mean the most to me: in God we trust. Adios. Have a great weekend with your family.